2299. Okay, we're on record for a review. I'm gonna have Ms. Johnson introduce herself first, then I'm gonna have to probably mute you because your connection is a little fuzzy and I'm hearing some background noise. Can you give us your name for the record, please?
Sorry,
Ms.
I'm
Johnson,
going to
give
a
us your
different
name,
area.
please.
Let's see if it's better.
Okay,
Hi, my
Ms.
name
Johnson,
is
can
Noelle
you hear me?
Johnson. Yes,
One
I
more time,
can.
please.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, can you give us your name for the record, please?
My name is Noelle Johnson.
Thank you. Appearances from the rest of our participants.
Lee Heiss, lawyer guardian ad litem.
Ms. Sasha Thomas, counsel for the department.
Brenda Burgess, foster care worker.
Michael McFarland, representing mother.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Heiss, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. I visited with this child in person. They are, he's in relative foster care in Grand Rapids. So it's been about 5 months since the removal. He has all of his developmentally appropriate toys, activities, games, outing. The placement is providing normalcy for him. He has extra medical appointments and he has been hospitalized in his little life, and there's a stay-at-home mother who is there to provide for him full-time, and the house is appropriate and the placement is meeting all of his needs. I attended a family team meeting when mom was there, and we reviewed again with her, all the services that are expected, and we had a nice time to communicate and go back and forth, and all of us ask our questions and concerns. So I do agree with the agency that the goal should change, that would be in the best interest of the child from going to the adoption. Thank you.
Testimony today, Ms. Thomas?
Your Honor, I would like to call Ms. Johnson. I'm just a little concerned with her connectivity issues. So I would like to try, but if not,
I mean, I am connected to Wi-Fi.
Okay, Ms. Johnson, Ms. Johnson, can you hear me? This is Joe Sal.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, I need you to be careful with what you're saying and who you're talking with, because you are technically right now part of a court hearing, okay? In fact, you're actually on YouTube. I'd prefer if you could start your video so that we can actually see you, but I need you to understand that I need your full attention right now. Can you give that to me for the next few minutes, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Deputy Ames, would you swear me in, please?
Please raise your right hand to be sworn in and let me know when it's raised.
Yep, my hand is raised. My right hand is raised.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Johnson, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. Where are you currently living?
Right now I'm staying with a friend in Tecumseh.
And is this a home that you would like explored if the court were to consider reunification of the child with you?
Yes, this home is fit for a child if that need be, but obviously my goal would be to have my own place by then.
And have you communicated with Ms. Burgess where you are living?
What was that?
Have you communicated with Ms. Burgess where you are living?
Yes, I mean, I told her the whereabouts. I mean, I don't feel an address is necessary if this is not where I planned for my home visit to be at.
Okay, so do you have appropriate housing for your child?
Yes, I do.
But you're unwilling to allow Ms. Burgess to investigate that. Is that your testimony?
Right now, I am only allowed. I've just learned that I'm only allowed to see him at supervised visits over in Grand Rapids. So if there was a possibility for him to be coming to where I'm staying at, that's fine. But we're not even there yet, so I don't feel it necessary. But I would be open to a home check if we were there to that part, but we're not.
Ms. Johnson, do you have a copy of your case service plan?
Not a physical copy, no. I know, I think I have one in my email somewhere.
Okay. And do you know, or do you know that it's a court order for you to comply with it?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, are you currently sober?
Am I sober? Yes, I am.
When is your sobriety date?
I just know it's been a couple months. I'm not sure exactly the day. I mean, I just try to get through each day, and go in with a better mindset than I had obviously a few months ago.
Okay. And what services are you participating in to address your substance abuse?
I actually have an appointment for my first counseling session through Catholic Charities. I think it's December 26th. I can go pull that up if you need. I did a mental at CMH. I did a community like an intake. I haven't heard anything back about that yet. That was just not this last Monday, but a week ago, that Monday. And like I said, I have counseling starting coming up, and those are all the things that I've been told to do so far.
Can you slow down just a little bit?
Yes. Do you need me to say everything again?
I think I caught everything except the last bit, something about counseling.
Yes, counseling. I'm supposed to be starting that. I'm pretty sure it's December 26th, and that's through Catholic Charities,
Thank you.
and that'll be my first
So
official session.
And I did not get.
That'll be my first session.
Thank you.
Ms. Johnson, you reported that you did a CMH screening and an intake. Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
No, I know I've done the first step. I've done where I went into, I actually met with a lady. I can't also remember her name was Logan or something like that. But yes, she did the first initial screening. And then, I actually had missed an appointment. I don't know. Can't remember the exact, probably about like almost 2 weeks ago, I missed an appointment and I have not been able to reschedule it because of work.
And in your CMH intake appointment, did you deny use of substances during your pregnancy with your child?
I don't remember being asked that question exactly. But I mean, after I found out I was pregnant, no, I did not use. Um,
And I believe in our last court report, you had gone through a CMH screening, or there was a separate screening that you reported your last use was in June of 2024.
well, they also had it written down that I said I need rehab, and that was not correct either. So I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but
Okay. So when you were pregnant, sorry, I'm going to move on. Sorry. All right. And are you working anywhere?
yes, I am.
And have you provided those pay stubs to Ms. Burgess?
No, I have not been able to make it into the office to actually see Miss Burgess and physically to hand her those. I am still waiting on my boss actually to print them off, and I've since when I first went to Catholic Charities, they had heard of who I work for. They have a couple other people who work for them, and they say they're more under the table. And see, I wasn't made aware of that, so it's not like I can just go check my pay stubs. And I honestly didn't even think to ask, I mean, or anything about that until I was asked for them. So I, I mean, I know now, but yeah, I can't just pull my pay stubs up. So I'm waiting for Joey to get them for me. And I have stressed the urgency of this. But once again, I still have no pay stubs. I apologize.
How often are you contacting Ms. Burgess?
We didn't talk last week, but we talked the week before that, and she made me aware of all of his appointments. And I had sent her confirmations of everything that I'm doing for school, um, and a few other screenshots of my appointments to let her know that I did comply with them. I signed releases also, so she knows what I have and haven't done in them kind of ways.
Have you completed a parent education program?
No, I have not yet. I was told just the things to work on for right now was do the intake at CMH and getting some type of counseling and substance abuse, which I am started with that. And to, keep moving forward with my Michigan work stuff. The last time me and Miss Burgess talked, nothing about adult ed was mentioned. But I would be willing to. I already know that I would need to contact Care Pregnancy for that.
Ms. Johnson, I'm going to stop you. I asked if you've completed parent education.
I said, no, I haven't. And I
Okay.
told you I'd be willing.
Thank
know what I
you.
need
That's
to
all I
do.
need. And do you have any active bench warrants for your arrest right now?
Yes, I do.
What is that for?
Just a probation violation.
Well, how did you violate your probation?
I just didn't. I didn't go report. I didn't go drop one day. I was working.
What is your plan to address that warrant?
I was just waiting till I got more of a break at work because with all the holidays and everything coming up, I really couldn't afford to miss any time because I'm really close to getting my own car and things like that.
How often are you visiting with your son?
Well, I was just actually, thank you for saying that. I was just made aware that this whole time I could have been seeing my son because when we were in court this last time, or actually any other time, I was told because I had warrants that I could not see my kid. Well, at our last court date, supposedly I'm able to see him, and I know I've made it clear in all of our other court sessions, so I am not able to see my kid, and I was told no. Well, now all of a sudden I could have been seeing my kid. And I think that's not right, or I would have been to see him. And I was told I couldn't see
So
him
you're
because
not
of my
answering my question, Ms. Johnson. I asked, how often are you visiting him?
I just told you I haven't got to visit him at all because I was told I cannot up until this
So
last court date.
you're not having virtual visits with him?
I mean, yeah, you didn't say virtual. Yes, I FaceTime him. I FaceTime him quite frequently. I talked to him maybe 2 days ago.
So how
I'm sure
frequently are you visiting with your child?
it depends. I don't know. I've missed a day here. I mean, at least 3, 4 times a week.
Is there a reason for your lack of communication with Ms. Burgess?
I mean, she has signed releases, so I mean, any activity. I didn't know we were supposed to talk that frequently. I mean, until I either accomplished something new or didn't accomplish something. Those are usually the only times we talk. I mean, I didn't know I'm supposed to check in with her every day. I wasn't know people like I haven't been made aware of certain things like that.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. McFarland?
Thank you. This is your attorney, Mr. McFarland. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
How would you like me to address you today?
I mean, Noelle.
Okay, Noelle. Earlier, the attorney for the agency asked you about the case service plan. I think you said you have access to that on your telephone. It's saved, am I correct?
Yes, when I have internet. Yep.
Do you have problems getting internet?
Yes, I do. It's only when has hotspot or if I'm around Wi-Fi.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but Pardon me, but do you know that the public libraries do have Wi-Fi that you can actually take out and utilize so you can gain access to that? Are you aware of that?
No, I didn't know about that actually. I didn't.
You could probably even use their laptops. Would you have the ability now then to take a look when you get a chance as soon as possible, that case service plan? Because that instructs you what you have to do for return of the child, what the agency has to do to assist you. Do you think you could do that?
Yes.
Who is your actual employer?
Joseph Liebman is who I've always been told.
Do you get paid cash or by check? How do you get paid?
He writes me a check. Most
Okay.
times. Um,
So you have a cell phone. Could you take a picture of that check, a photo, and then send that to Miss Burgess? You'd have the ability to do that, right?
yes, I can.
Okay. Okay. And I'll ask her if that would satisfy her. I'm sure it probably would. You indicated that you're taking some classes. What classes are you taking? Is that educational classes?
Yes, for my GED.
Okay. And where do you stand on that?
And I go through Michigan Works for that, and the course is called Essential Education. It's all online, but she has times when we can go in person during the week. So I've went besides obviously with the holiday and stuff, I've been planning to go 2 to 3 days a week. And I did sign a release for that.
Do you have a valid driver's license?
I do not, but I did go up to Secretary of State about a week ago, and I know what I need to do to get my license.
That's fine. The only reason I'm asking that is it sounds as though you may need some help with transportation to go to Grand Rapids for a visit if the court allows you. Am I correct on that?
Yes, to a certain extent. I do have people that.
Wait, can you repeat that? You broke up. Can you start
Yes,
from the beginning on your
do.
answer?
Yes, I do have somewhat trouble transportation. That's why I'm working towards getting my own car. But I do have people that would be willing to help me and get me up there if I needed to.
So if the agency were to give you some gas cards, so people would have at least reimbursement for their gas, do you think you'd be able to get up there?
Yes, I could.
And how frequently would you be able to get up to Grand Rapids?
As long as I was, I'm made aware of when it is a few days ahead of time. I can get up there as many times as I need to.
And the agency may require that you reach out to them to confirm that you're going to be there, so everybody in Grand Rapids isn't waiting around and you don't show up. Do you think you'd be able to do that?
Yes, I could.
Okay. Now, also, I wanted you to read the case service plan. It tells you how often you need to contact or reach out to your worker. Do you understand that now?
Oh, yes, now I do. Yes, I will.
Okay. And if there's a possibility that the child could visit you here in Adrian, I don't know, but if that's the case, you're telling us you would like to have the current residence explored. Is that correct?
Yes, 100%.
And they would probably also have to do background checks on everybody who's there to make sure that's appropriate. Are you okay with them reaching out to whoever else lives there?
Yes, that's fine.
What do you need help with the most on this case?
I've probably just transportation until I get a car.
Okay. On the case service plan, it tells some other things that you're supposed to do, like parenting classes and things like that. Some of these you might be able to do on the internet, like through a library. So you think maybe you can reach out to Ms. Burgess and get back on track after our court hearing?
Yes, 100%. Yep.
Okay. Is there anything else that you wish to add today?
No, no.
Maybe questions from other attorneys. Thank you.
Ms. Heiss?
Noelle, are you working today?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am, actually. I'm in a break room right now.
What are your hours today?
Today, I got 2 more cars to do, and then a motorbike. So each car usually takes me about 2 to 2.5 hours. So, I'll probably be here till 4:30 or 5.
Okay, if the court were to order you to take a drug screen today, would you make yourself available for that?
I mean, I'm currently in Jackson, so I mean, I'll try everything I can to get there. But I mean, realistically, I don't know if I can make it back to Adrian by then, because my transportation right now is my boss or somebody who and like another coworker. So I mean, but tomorrow, if I absolutely had to be there, I could be there in the morning.
Okay. The child is placed with your relatives, correct?
Yes, he is with my brother.
So did you have any opportunity, Thanksgiving just passed, did you celebrate any with your family, or how does that work in your family?
No, I mean, I really don't have family. Right now it's just me. My mom never answers the phone. And with my dad, who has my oldest 2 kids, they're Jehovah's Witnesses, so they don't do Thanksgiving. They don't do holidays. So that takes away from, that's the only family I really have. So, and then Jaleel was in Tennessee.
Yeah, he's on vacation, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
Cross.
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Your next witness, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thomas Burgess.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. You have provided a court report for today's hearing. Are there any updates or modifications that need to be made to it?
I do have just a couple of new things.
Okay, go ahead, whenever you're ready.
So the child had a well child exam yesterday, and his doctor provided a letter and is recommending that or a strong recommendation that he receive the influenza, COVID, and RSV vaccines because it's very vital for his health and well-being. So that would be in addition to the other letter that was provided previously from his pulmonary doctor. And then also at his well child exam, he was referred to ophthalmology. So he's going to have another appointment. And then regarding the putative father, I did get a date for the DNA scheduling, and that's January 24th.
Thank you for those updates. One of the main things in your court report really reflects on the lack of communication between Ms. Johnson and yourself. How often are you able to communicate with her?
Not really often. We're required to meet at least monthly. And when I've reached out to schedule with her, I'm willing to come to her because I know she doesn't have transportation. We've not been able to schedule anything. I don't have her address. I don't have her place of employment. And she did agree to meet with me on November 26th, and she didn't show. And I didn't hear from her until this morning.
When you do speak with her, how often is she initiating contact with you?
maybe I'm sorry, I don't have the exact, not very often.
Like twice in a review period maybe, or?
Yes.
Okay. Many of the things on the case service plan by your report indicate that because of lack of communication, you're unable to make the referral. So for the psychological evaluation, can you just help us understand your thinking about not making those referrals due to the lack of communication?
Yeah, because of the lack of communication, I mean, I could make the referrals, but, and I guess have her, and then that would be up to her whether or not she showed. So, but that's the reason that I have not made the referrals.
Is it, so if I'm understanding, it's more about coordinating dates, and with the inconsistent communication or lack of communication, it's hard to coordinate those dates.
Correct.
In your report, there's, let's talk about parenting time, because Ms. Johnson just is magically aware that she can go to Grand Rapids or something. Can you help us understand what is going on in parenting time?
So in the very beginning, she did need to take care of a warrant before we started parenting time, and then we needed to come up with a plan for parenting time. So we did that, and this was in July. So we had a family team meeting. The referral was made for visitation coach for Ms. Edwards to transport once a week to Lansing, and the relatives would transport the child to Lansing. And then I also set up transportation through another funding source that would be able to transport her. And then I didn't hear from Noelle. So, and I basically have not heard from her, I don't very often, to be able to set that up.
I guess then what changed, or can you help us understand, is she allowed to go to Grand Rapids then to see her child, or what would that look like?
Linda Edwards could transport to Lansing. And then I have another source of transportation that could transport her to Lansing, so she could have 2 visits a week. We recently had a family team meeting where we talked about this again. That was on November 19th. And that's when she said she didn't realize that she could have in-person parenting time.
But the warrant's still not taken care of.
Correct.
So the plan cannot really be effectuated until that warrant's taken care of. Is that correct, or is that sort of not relevant right now?
Well, it was just my understanding from the last court hearing that her parenting time wasn't suspended based on the warrant.
And that meeting that you had scheduled for November 26th were you guys going to discuss the plan for parenting time then?
Yes, we would have discussed the plan. We would have gone over a case service plan. I could have completed a drug screen. There just were a number of things that I could do.
The report indicates that mom is doing some virtual parenting time. It looks like maybe it's pretty sporadic. Is that supervised by anyone?
The caregiver is present.
And during the parenting time, your report indicates that it seems that there are other people on the other line or in the same area vicinity as mom during her parenting time or the virtual visits?
Correct.
Was this discussed in the family team meeting?
I don't recall if it was discussed at the family team meeting. I did bring it up at the last court hearing that I was concerned about that.
And you've included the emails in your contacts, so thank you for that. Have you had an opportunity to discuss with Ms. Johnson the need for the child to have those specific vaccines based on his health needs?
Yes.
And where does she stand on that?
At the last court hearing, I mean, it was suggested that she contact the child's doctor and discuss the benefits of the vaccines, and she didn't do that. I did provide her with the doctor's letter that has his phone number on it. There was an appointment scheduled in October, I think it was October 14th, that she could have attended. And then there was his well child yesterday, and she didn't attend that either. So, I mean, yes, I have been addressing it with her.
Are you asking for the court to give relative caregivers permission to authorize those vaccines or yourself?
Yes.
Do you believe that there's been enough progress or sufficient progress to continue towards the goal of reunification?
No.
Are you asking for the goal to be changed to adoption today?
Yes.
Are the relative caregivers willing to provide permanency through adoption to this child?
Yes.
Were you able to verify with Catholic Charities any of the upcoming appointments?
Noelle did send me screenshots of her counseling appointment and that she'd signed a release of information. Just from memory, I think her appointment was scheduled for December 16th.
Is there anything else from the court report that you would like to highlight for the court's attention?
Just that in the family team meeting, Noelle did state that she doesn't feel like she's able to at least financially support the child at this time.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Your Honor, and move to admit the court report and its attachments.
No objections.
No objection.
Thank you. They are received. Mr. McFarland, any questions?
Yes, if my client sends you a screenshot of the checks that she's given for employment, would that satisfy what you're looking for?
For proof of employment, yes.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'm a little confused. There's no policy from GHHS that says parents can't have visits if there's a warrant, correct?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
So how is it that your agency said that she couldn't have visitations with a warrant? And now they are allowing visits. What happened?
Yeah. So at the very first court hearing, I'm not sure of the date, she needed to take care of her warrant, and that was for the court. The last court hearing, I mean, as soon as she took care of the warrant, we set up a plan for visitation.
You're saying the court order said she couldn't have visits until the warrant was cleared. Is that
In the
what I
very
heard?
beginning, yes.
Thank you. Okay, okay. So I also heard you say that Linda Edwards and maybe somebody else can provide visits twice a week for my client to Lansing, correct?
Correct.
Would you also be able to pay for a gas card for a driver to drive her if she seeks it on her own?
I mean, I could provide gas cards. The pairing time would need to be supervised. I'm not sure if the relatives would feel comfortable supervising that.
Well, you jumped ahead. I think you knew where I was going with
Okay.
that. So that's why you have Miss Edwards or somebody else, because they would be the supervisor, correct?
Correct.
If the relative would be comfortable, I know the agency's doing this in other cases, you might be able to pay an Uber driver to take her up there, since you wouldn't be paying Miss Edwards. Would that be accurate?
Yes. I don't know if it would be Uber, but we would have. We could do
You'd
that.
have transportation for her. So do you need an address for her house, physical house, and her employment right now? And if so, what do you need an actual physical address for?
I can meet with her in her home. I mean, we're required to meet with a parent face-to-face monthly,
Okay.
and then also face-to-face quarterly in their home.
Got it, okay. Where should her priorities be engaging in this case service plan?
All of the above, providing an address, providing her employment, turning herself in for her warrant, cooperating with probation, drug screens, substance abuse treatment, preparing time.
What kind of drug screens are you requesting that she do, knowing that she's going to Jackson for employment?
She also reports, well, she reports living in Tecumseh and also working in Adrian and Jackson.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what her probation has set up. I know they're random. And then I would just request, when I see her, I could do random screens as well.
Okay. How frequently do you want to see her on a weekly basis, monthly? What are we talking about?
Weekly.
Weekly? Okay, I have no further questions.
Ms. Hess,
I have no questions today, thank you.
any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you for your testimony. May I return to your seat? Any other witnesses, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr.
I'd
McFarland?
like to recall my client, please.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, Mr. McFarland has some questions for you. I'm just gonna remind you that you remain under oath.
The worker
Okay.
states that there's a letter from the doctor advising that your child should get immunizations. Are you okay and consenting for immunizations?
I was consenting towards all of them except for the COVID-19 vaccine. Just with all of his health problems, with his breathing, problems. I mean, I feel like that's harmful. But I also told them if his doctor thinks that it's absolutely necessary, like he absolutely needs to get it, no question, no doubt in his mind, then I told him that's fine. I feel like I've said that at least twice, not just
Thank you.
to you guys, but to Melanie.
Okay. And do you hear that because the visits are supervised, that they have somebody who will be able to take you up twice a week to visit your child in Lansing, which is a meeting halfway ground? Did you hear that?
Yes, I hear that.
You'll have to reach out to your worker to get that started. Is that something that you wish to do?
Yes, it is.
And do you have your worker's contact information to do that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. The worker also indicated that she needs to meet with you once a month where you are actually physically living. After we're off the air, could you provide an actual address where you're living and an address where you're working? As she says she needs that too, just so we're doing that in private. Would you be okay to do that once we're off YouTube?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay. Did you have any questions or concerns with the way that the worker outlined the case is going and what you need to do, which would be to reach out to contact her as soon as possible? Do you have any questions or concerns based upon her testimony?
No.
I have nothing further.
Okay, further questions from Ms. Johnson from our other attorneys?
No, Your Honor.
No,
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else you'd like us to hear from? Mr. McFarland?
No, thank you.
Ms. Heiss?
I have no witnesses today, thank you.
Closing comments whenever you're ready, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. At the last hearing, the court in your findings noted to mom, her obligation is to tell the truth. We need to see her best efforts. She needs a safe, stable environment. If not, then we obviously have to look at a different placement plan for this child, other than with mom. Today, and as outlined in the court report, mom is still unwilling to be truthful. She said as soon as she found out, she stopped using, but then she tested positive for a myriad of substances when during her pregnancy, which was ecstasy, meth, cocaine, THC, and the child was born positive for meth, amphetamines, THC, and morphine. So to this day, after the child was removed in early June, there's still no accountability, and we still cannot trust the statements that she says to the court. Looked back at my notes, and in the hearing for even just as recently as the last hearing, Ms. Burgess put on record the attempts to have conversations with Ms. Johnson. And during that review period, she had conversations on July 2nd, which was the day after the initial dispo, and then on July 8th, and then had no contact until September at some point in time. Ms. Burgess had testified at that hearing about the plan for visitation, for a visitation coach that came with transportation. And then also that there would be a liaison, community liaison. And we just needed a week for confirmation, so it could all be set up and all these things could be worked out. And during this review period, mom still has not maintained communication with Ms. Burgess to even do in-person parenting time. We also have virtual visits that are occurring per her request, and the relatives are being very kind and allowing this sporadic type of communication. It's minimal at best, but she clearly is demonstrating a way to have contact with the child and be part of his life, but is not attending these medical appointments that are very critical for his care, because he is a child with very heightened medical needs, in part due to the birth injury sustained from being drug exposed. At this time, Your Honor, mom, based on her lack of communication and engagement with Ms. Burgess, and whether she says she doesn't know or not, she's been at least 4 court hearings where the situation has remained the same. And the court has been very clear with her. Ms. Burgess has been here to testify, or other workers. We need that communication to coordinate dates for referrals. Are you available for a psychological evaluation on X day? Because we have limited providers, we have limited resources. And it is not on a caseworker to do all of the work and the parent not show up. This parent has still not engaged or tried to engage in any substance abuse treatment, and this child was removed back in June. She's not engaged in any parenting education, especially because this child has such significant medical needs. I believe that it would be of the utmost importance. And this kiddo really needs a parent who, and a caregiver who is willing to be invested in his life. And Your Honor, because of the lack of progress, I know that we're not quite at the 182 days since dispo, but we are asking the court to consider a full change to adoption. We would ask for another 90-day review, at which point we'd also anticipate that to be a termination hearing. Because at this point in time, this kiddo with these significant medical concerns really needs this caring home to meet his needs. Additionally, we are asking the court to grant the department the authority to consent to the vaccines. I know that Ms. Johnson says that she would, but she says she's okay with it, but I don't think she understands that she actually has to participate in those appointments to give her consent. So we're asking the court to authorize the department to do that, or the relative caregivers. And with that, I just asked for that 90-day review hearing.
My client is okay with all the immunizations, except as she indicated COVID, unless there's some dire absolute need. I can understand that position, as many parents make that decision. So we're not saying she has no parental rights here. I think a person not familiar with the court proceedings might believe that because her parenting time was suspended when she had a warrant, that now that she has a warrant, it's still suspended. But she knows that's not the case, Your Honor. Excuse me, in addition, the worker is of the belief, as my client testified, that she does have a meeting with Catholic Charities. My client is willing to provide an address of both her work and her home situation, so Ms. Burgess can come out and meet with her. Ms. Burgess also said she's okay with having a screenshot of the check, which will suffice. Doesn't sound as though my client is objectionable to drug screening. As we heard her testifying here today, Your Honor. We do realize that that is a significant issue and the reason why we are in the case here. She does have to, and she realizes has to get the probation issue taken care of. Problem testing through probation as she shows up, she's probably going to be incarcerated, and then she doesn't have a job, so we lose where she's working. But I would strongly suggest that she reach out to her court-appointed attorney on that to make arrangements, get that taken care of. I have no further comments.
Ms. Heiss, any comments?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd ask you to consider that the court report shows that she's compliant with 1 out of 16 points of her case service plan. I would ask you to consider having her screened before she is transported to Lansing. I would hate to get into a situation with that long of a drive where Miss Edwards or the child were exposed to erratic behavior. I'd ask you to consider that we have a professional letter from the University of Michigan wherein the doctor recommends that this child receive influenza, COVID, and RSV vaccines, as well as regularly scheduled vaccinations. This child is a medically fragile child, and it is being recommended by U of M. So for mom to put her judgment above U of M, I don't think is credible. And I'd ask you to allow the agency to have authority for vaccines. Thank you.
Did you address the goal change?
I would agree with the agency that adoption is the appropriate goal.
Do you think that our next review would be an appropriate time to look at a termination petition?
I do.
Well, understanding that first week of March and the last week of February have already been used up, and anything after the 10th would be over 90 days. Our next review and permanency planning hearing would be, the closest I have availability is February 18th at 2:30 p.m. Just so everyone knows, February 18th at 2:30. That'll be a review and permanency planning hearing. Court finds all interested parties are given notice for purposes of today's review hearing and permanency planning hearing. It's important to note that the case services plan is served with the court orders, the initial disposition, the first review. This is our second regular review that we've had for Ms. Noelle Johnson. So there's no question she should have an idea of what she should be working on. And I think she does understand what she needs to be working on. I think if I were properly qualified as a therapist to diagnose where she's at right now, the correct term would be pre-contemplated. What that means, practically speaking, is that Ms. Johnson would like to perhaps make some significant changes, but is not doing that, hence the pre. We have a situation on our hands where there's been a bench warrant for a violation of probation as well as for a retail fraud charge, third degree, according to the court report, since July 18th of 2024. I did prohibit in-person visitation given the fact that the family placement would have to travel to Lansing and Ms. Johnson would have to travel to Lansing from Grand Rapids in order to meet for in-person parenting visits. I have significant concerns clearly about asking the relative placement to transport to Lansing understanding that Ms. Johnson doesn't have her own transportation. It's not testing positive, or is not testing in order to help us understand that she's clean, and there is a warrant, which means there's a significant chance that when she arrives or on the way there or back, even or during parenting time, an arrest could be effectuated. That's compounded by the fact that there are some concerns about Ms. Johnson's behavior. Ms. Thomas highlights the fact that Ms. Johnson has been disingenuous at times. That's been true. I've made those findings in prior hearings. But I think it's not as much directly as it is by way of contradictory. We saw that today. Her testimony that she gave in response to Ms. Thomas's questions was distinctly different than the responses she gave in response to Mr. McFarland's questions. Here's hoping that that's because she wants to cooperate with Mr. McFarland and maybe will be able to re-engage in some of these things. However, that has not been the case as I see the status on some of these challenges in the court report. Further contradictions exist when I look at the case file and some of the services that, or some of the things that have been accomplished in the last report period. The CMH assessment in particular is concerning. She reported to the assessor that she's denied any substance use problem in her life. She's denying substance use concerns and reporting her motivations, getting her son back, denying any concerns of substance use, withdrawal, or cravings. There was a CMH assessment done at the outset of this case indicating that Ms. Johnson qualified for inpatient substance abuse services. CMH is aware of this. She did that assessment with them earlier this year. And the disposition comments in this assessment, the recent assessment, and I'll quote from page 7 of 8. The consumer meets criteria for a full assessment due to previous diagnoses, previous and recent documentation of depression, SI, and SUD. Clinician scheduled the assessment with LCMHA for 11/21/24, 11 a.m. Additionally, entered authorizations for SUD assessment at Catholic Charities and called and scheduled the appointment for 11/21 at 1 o'clock. The diagnoses include post-traumatic stress disorder, diagnosed in 2019, bipolar 2 disorder, diagnosed in 2019, both with a status of active. In 2017, there was an active diagnosis of unspecified anxiety disorder. In 2019, an alcohol use disorder. In 2019, cocaine use disorder, active diagnoses, same with the cannabis use disorder. In 2024, there's an unspecified stimulant use disorder, active diagnosis, which of course is part of why she's subject to drug testing with the probation department. There's an active warrant for her failing to appear for those and for failing to drug test. So without drug tests, as the caseworkers know, I hesitate to automatically assume that that means that there's positive drug use. I look for other indications to help me understand really where a parent's at, given that I need to know that so that I can make the best decision as it relates to his or her child. Thank you, Ms. Burgess, for all of your efforts, but I really see that you have been listening and are aware of that. So you've included some narrative out of the social work contacts log about Ms. Johnson's phone calls and contacts. And I see this as being very supportive of your position that Ms. Johnson is very erratic. She's demonstrating very irregular behavior. She's not interacting with her child even by phone conference on a regular basis. She seems to call regularly when the child is sleeping and then won't call back if she's not able to see him at that time. One of the phone calls, she was in a car. This is one from October 17th, 2024, a video conference. There's a FaceTime at 6:45 PM. Ms. Johnson was in a car with multiple other people. It was very loud. The call kept breaking up. The call was disconnected at 6:48. 6:51, Noelle called back. The call was very choppy. She began to swear and then hung up. The call was disconnected again. She didn't call back. On 10:22, she FaceTimed with the family, interacted with the child briefly. She covered the camera and continuously showed the child to multiple people in the car she was with throughout the duration of the call. Mom asked what size the diaper and clothes were that the child was wearing and promised to get together a care package for them. That call lasted 6 minutes. There was no care package ever sent. Another 3-minute call, 11:01, 11:02, another FaceTime during a nap. Minute. Did end up chatting or interacting for a little while at 6:50. Interacted, here I'm quoting, she interacted with the child, continuously showing him to someone else in the room with her. After less than a minute, she had muted herself and a man was holding the phone. Call ended after 8 minutes. So these are some really concerning behaviors. The fact that she's refusing to allow the caseworker to see where she's living. She's not acknowledging that she's got a stable environment for the child. She still has these bench warrants out. She's not engaged with CMH services. She's showed up for that initial assessment, but not from there. There are just so many challenges here that Ms. Johnson continues to demonstrate that I cannot help but agree, frankly, with Ms. Burgess and Ms. Heiss that the goal for this case should be adoption. This is a young child. He's been with his uncle since birth. One of the most concerning things that I'm hearing, I want to mention this before I get too far away from the subject matter of inconsistency or contradiction, was her insistence that she was not using while she was pregnant. But the child himself tested positive for methamphetamine, amphetamine, THC, and morphine. He was born premature at 32 weeks, was hospitalized at the NICU. Even at that time, the mother was visiting only intermittently and had already signed a power of attorney allowing her brother to take care of the child at least temporarily. So again, we have lots of struggles that Ms. Johnson has yet to really make any progress whatsoever in overcoming. We're at the same very stagnant place that we were in July. So I'm going to do with this case what I have done in others. I'm changing the goal to adoption, understanding that Ms. Johnson will have the opportunity to continue to try to engage in services. I'm going to reprioritize the case. I do understand that this family I read has already been licensed. Great work, Ms. Burgess. That really expedites things for the families and makes sure that we know for permanency purposes that this family is not only available for adoption, but would have a much easier pathway to accomplishing that, given that they have already accomplished license. So that's great. The path is clear for the child in this case. So we'll see what Ms. Johnson will do with her path between now and when we come back. But I am allowing the priority for this case to be adoption moving forward, given all the things I already discussed. But we'll see what Ms. Johnson is able to do between now and when we come back on February 18th at 2:30. If the petition is timely filed and served, I will hear the contents of it on the 18th at 2:30. Unless there's any questions. The child will clearly remain in the care and custody of the relative placement pending the next review that is the safest and least restrictive. The rest of the findings will be in court order.
This is scheduled for a half-hour review, Your Honor.
I have it scheduled for 2 hours from 2:30 to 4:30 on the 18th in case the petition is ready to be heard.
Okay. Lastly, if the court wishes to take my client's work in residential address off record.
She hasn't been on in a while.
I think she might be